I want to welcome you to Dream Chasers Radio with me, your host, Yaya Diamond. What's up, people? How you doing? It is a great day. I'm excited about today because I have my guest on, and she has a very unique name. I love it, and it's really creative, and I'm just loving her book. I think that her whole thing is just creative. Like, she's taken this to a new level and been very specific about her creativity, and I think that you will appreciate that. So today we have Ethnic Sayam on the show today, and yes, that is her name, Ethnic Sayam. And I'm just, like I said, I think she's just super creative, and I'm ready to dive into this interview. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Delighted to be here.
Oh, the delight is mine. So tell me about yourself. I mean, before you started writing, like pre-writing.
Oh, pre-writing. Well, it's a twofold story, but right now, when I'm not doing writing stuff, I am an attorney, and I primarily do like review of documents for litigation. So it's a project contract situation, which I love. So I'm on, I'm off. I could go months. You know,
That's
um, but
wonderful.
as a writer, and certainly that's not why I kind of started doing that, but it's a glimpse into the world of business. I see everything. I've worked on satellite cases, telecommunications, antitrust, some issue with an insurance claim with a broken dishwasher. It just kind of goes on. And for me, it's fascinating. It's tedious having to go through documents, yes, but like I said, for me personally, I don't know. It's like being in grandma's attic. You're like, ooh, oh yeah, right. This is relevant, and then you go, ooh, this isn't. So anyway,
I feel
and
you.
so that is what I do. At the time that I wrote Aren and Élise, I was primarily a stay-at-home mom. So I was writing just as we were coming out of that 2009 economic crisis, and I was working for an investment company, and I was part of that casualties of the mass layoffs when everybody was right. And so my kids, they were little, they were like 3-4 years old, and also at that time I was going through a difficult time because I had to move my mother, who lived in Florida at the time, and she needed to go into a skilled facility, a nursing home. So, it was kind of, I lived in my pajamas, doing it was like insane. And I'm kind of jumping the gun because you didn't really ask the question, like, how did I get into this? But you'll roll with me.
I will.
What happened was I was literally in my kitchen, the kids are doing their crazy stuff. And I had my coffee break. And then a news report on National Public Radio came on. And it was about highly educated Black women who will never get married and never have children. So this was 2011. And I kid you not, I just like sat there and I listened. Don't ask me what their conclusion was. I think, I've long forgotten what they said, but just the report just touched me profoundly. And that night I started writing Aren and Élise.
Wow. Were you already a lawyer at this time? Okay.
Yes. And when I was working in an investment company, I was doing business compliance. Actually, I worked with pensions. And there are all sorts of legal rules around the structure of pensions. And that's what I was doing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I went to college I went to community college to study law and to get into law, because that's kind of like the prerequisite before you actually go to law school, right?
Yes.
You have to do some kind of an introduction to, I hated it. I thought I was going to be this lawyer that was going to change the world. I hated it. It was like I saw no end to the things that had already been put in place. point where the fight was the struggle. I would die before this would even go through. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna have to figure out another way to do this.
Can I tell you a
What I
secret?
mean, go
Can I
ahead.
tell you a secret?
Yes.
After my first year in law school, I hated it.
See, I didn't even get. I went through my first year, and then I went halfway through my second, and I was like, I'm changing. Done. Done. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I hear you. And what I tell young people getting into it who are interested, I just tell them, you know what? It's fine. Just be sure you know what you want to do.
Yeah.
Like if you want to be that environmental lawyer and you're really into the environment, then go for it.
Oof.
If you want to do human rights, go for it. The problem is when, and this is me, but I went to law school. I'm very old now, but when I went to law school, I followed a lot of people who looked at law school like a finishing school. So you do your undergraduate degree, maybe you do something else, and then because you have nothing else better to do, you go into law school. And one thing I will share though, before I became a lawyer, so in my 20s, I actually worked for a public affairs documentary series.
Oh.
And I was the admin. And I really loved it. I actually loved it. Just being there, like sitting in the room, listening to like the series editor, the producer who's making the documentary, my boss who would, give his critique. I love, you can hear it in I loved it. But at that time, I also saw, oh my gosh, it was so political. And I said, I don't really want to play these games.
Yeah.
Because it really was like that. Not Hollywood, but it had its own kind of dynamic. And I said, I don't think I really have the stomach for this. And so, I opted for law school. But I'm grateful for the time that I did work there. I loved it.
Yeah.
And if I could like do my life over again, I honestly think I might have, chosen a different path.
Well,
But
I mean, we all would.
Yeah.
Because what we know now.
Yes.
But I don't think we would have, because we didn't know that then.
Yeah, we didn't. I didn't. But I also think I probably would not have written Aren and Élise, at least not the way I wrote it. Not the way I wrote it. So,
let's get into that. Tell me about this book.
So I introduced it. I introduced the idea that it came from listening to this report, and it just really touched me. And I think Aren and Élise has gone through different phases. So the initial story that I wrote very quickly, I mean, within 3 weeks, I had a story down. And I think that initial story was a Black woman. I'm from the Caribbean, or rather my family's from Haiti. And I said, I want to see like people like me from the Caribbean. And then again, I was very sensitive to, what, I don't want Stella Got Her Groove Back. I don't want like all this drama. Like, no, I want to see a vibrant woman. And I'll tell you truthfully, I kind of like scanned who, so in my mind, I was thinking of, let's say, like a Halle Berry. I'm like, okay, I'll put that image in my mind, and that's who I was writing about.
Wow.
And then the next thing I was interested in is, okay, this is a woman, and this is the crux of the story, who's going to turn 50. And this is a huge milestone for all women, regardless of where you come from. It's a huge milestone. So in the beginning of this novel, we see in a prologue how this woman sort of goes from being the baby in the middle of the Duvalier regime in Haiti, to navigating her way through university, and then to end up where she is now, childless and never married. And yeah, so that one, I really thought about that. And, at the end of the prologue, I'm not really giving anything away because this is in the very beginning. She decides, okay, I can't change this. I'm going to go forward and I'm going to be as brave as possible. And so she does something completely out of character. And that is, she decides she's going to go on a hiking trip to Vermont. So this is the person who does Zumba, who does, does like all the bougie thing. Hiking, not so much. But it's when she is with her acupuncturist, the idea pops into her mind. It's just, okay, I'll go on a trip. So the first part of Aren and Élise is very much a kind of hero's journey a little bit, because she has to go away in order for this story to begin.
Okay, gotcha.
It's a short trip. And that's where, she decides, okay, I'm going to embrace this. I'm going to make, and in the prologue, we find out she's completely renovated her apartment. She got a nice little, tuck here and there. She's like, okay, I'm going to hunker down and I'm going to embrace turning 50. And of course, it's when she makes that trip that things happen, not immediately. And that's the other aspect of the story. What does love in the second half of your life look like? Like, we've all seen the rom-coms with the 20 and 30-year-olds, okay? What does it look like when you're a fit 50-something?
Yeah.
And this I could see, because at that time, I told you, I was, at home with the kids. I'd go to my Zumba class or whatever it was that I'm doing. And I had a Pilates teacher, and she was gorgeous. And she was probably like 57. Just sleek, slender, she knew she was all that, wonderful. And I thought, okay, people don't realize this. And I'm going to fast forward a little bit in my story, in my personal story. When I gave this to the editor, the first editor, I could see the ageism in her comments. Like she couldn't help herself. And that's one reason why I sat on this novel for so long.
Gotcha.
But it, and I just like, oh, well, I guess I'm crazy. Like, I don't know. But like, her ageism was really bad. It was really bad. And so for Élise, when I, took the story back up again, I was, 10 years older and, okay, like ready to, go on this journey with her. The other kind of development in this story is the Aren character. So she's 50, she's turning 50, and he's already in his 60s. He's 62, he's retired, and you find out later what his particular journey has been, but he's a widower and he already has a grown daughter. And so from the very beginning, and this is like, chapter 1 and 2, they meet on this hiking trail. And it's a real hiking trail called Precipice Trail in Vermont. And she falls because she's clumsy, right? She's never been, and he helps her. And the way I set it up in chapter 1 is that he's following behind her. And so all he can see is a woman with gray hair. She doesn't color her hair. Kind of clumsy. So he thinks, some elderly woman who's on the trail. And so when she falls, he rushes to help her. What he doesn't expect is that the woman then who reaches her arms so that, she could be pulled up is this gorgeous woman. Yes, with gray hair, but this gorgeous, that is what he sees. And so he immediately is smitten. She's, dusting herself off. Where's my, the whole bit. And she's not connecting. She, I guess as part of her journey, she's lost connection with herself as a woman. Like earlier I said, yeah, she does her house, she does this, she like prepares herself to be 50. But what she hasn't prepared herself for is how to be a woman, how to tap into that sensuality. She's closed the door. And so the first part of it is this tug and war between them. You know, he's talking to her about the possibilities, and she's like, nope, 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 speak to the hand, nope, nope, nope. And what's fun about that part is that this is written in 2011. And so this was the time when Facebook was just emerging. Online dating is really taking off. This is Obama's America, possibilities. All right. And so I wrote that in. So that's like the first part of the novel. You know, the second part is actually, well, what does older life look like? You know, when you're no longer actively, you know, householding, you don't have kids, you know, it's like, woo! And that's always what I say. It's woo! You know, the second part is like, what does that woo look like? And he's pushing her boundaries. He's pushing her boundaries. And she's literally kind of like, can I make that step? Like, ah, and it's scary, but exciting at the same time. And then it's the last quarter of the book, or the, you know, where things get really, really dicey. They encounter a test. And so, and if you know your Bible story, and it's funny, I did not begin writing this this novel with this Bible story in mind. That came a little later. And the Bible story, of course, is the story of Abraham and Sarah. Okay. And just like in the Bible, both of them are shocked and don't believe God when he says, oh, and you're going to have a baby. And she's like, how? How? You know, the ship sailed on that one. Well, so I tapped into that story. So I tapped into that Bible story.
Right.
And so what's interesting then is like, so you're watching the growth of Élise. You know, she's blossoming into her, you know, divine woman status. And he's loving it. But when the boom drops, it completely upends everything.
That sounds amazing. Like,
and the story then is, how do they make it back? And so some clues that I give you without going through the whole saga are like two things. In the Catholic faith, I was raised Catholic. They have a sacrament called reconciliation. It used to be penance. Like if you did bad things, then you recite 10 Hail Marys and, you know, bad you. And then they changed it to the sacrament of reconciliation. And what's interesting about reconciliation is that you have to admit something is broken. And then the energy is about how do you construct something new, but you first acknowledge it's dead and broken. And so this couple will have to go through reconciliation. And, you know, there's a lot about that. There's also a lot about then, you know, the hostility of, you know, what happens to a woman when you're the older woman. In today's society, if you're 35, they'll call you advanced age mother. All right. And here you have a woman at 50, and she didn't go through IVF. It's natural. It's a miracle. And she has to navigate this. And then you have this man, and you have this man.
Oh, that is, I'm sorry, I have to stop you. That is absolutely crazy, because I'm 51. Okay. And at 50, I didn't have any more. You know what I'm talking about, the girl thing. I didn't have that no more. So most women at 50, not unless you go past 50, but I kind of went early. You can still get pregnant.
Yeah.
Because there's like a way to do, and I'm like, you're kidding me. So,
well, nobody explained that to her until after the fact.
Oh, and so, no. Oh my gosh.
And so for him, he's been blindsided. And so if the first half of the book is about the blossoming of Élise Duché, the second half of it is Aren coming to terms with this. All right. And he's coming
older.
from, huh?
He's older.
He's older. All right, he's Armenian, and that was the other thing. I said, let's shake this up. I'm in Massachusetts, in the greater Boston area. We've got lots of people from lots of different places. And so I chose Armenia, and if you look at the book, you'll see there's like a cross, and it's an Armenian cross. And that's very special because he will go on his journey too. I said she traveled, he travels too. And what he's got to reconcile with is he had this, all set, 62, he's a retired businessman. Life was, good looking woman. Life was grand. And then this bombshell, and he's got to come to grips with, well, what kind of man is he? He asks himself this question: what kind of man am I? I didn't expect, to be pushing a baby carriage at 63. That's not what I signed up for.
Yeah.
Like all these things he's got to reconcile. Right. And so I'll just skip to, so I said, so reconciliation is a huge theme in the second part of the novel. But towards the end, also, I pulled from my experience of being in Boston, in the Boston area, and the Boston Marathon. And I actually did run the Boston Marathon. It was awful. but in that 26-mile race, there's what they call Heartbreak Hill. That's really the name of the hill. And it's in the last 6 miles of the book. I mean, of the race. And that's where, once again, all that adrenaline that people have, like for the first, first 20 miles or first 15 miles, that's where you're going to crash at Heartbreak Hill. And, and it's kind of like, can you get through it and finish the race? And that's very much the metaphor for Aren's journey.
Wow.
So I'm a happily ever after kind of person. So,
we don't give up the ending. We don't know what the happily ever after will be.
However you wish to define happily ever after. But for me, it was the journey that was important.
I think so. I love the journey. I mean, I think that speaks to a lot of women out there that have had their oops baby.
Yes.
That's the oops. Oh my gosh, I thought I was done. What? You're kidding me, right? Go back in and check that out again. That might have been a baby that I had, and it died years ago. Yeah, take it out because you got to be kidding me.
But the thing is, when I was growing up, it wasn't so strange for women in their late 40s and 50s to get pregnant. You call them change of life babies. And now the attitude has completely changed. Like I said, they'll call the 35-year-old woman the advanced age mother, and put her on bed rest, and
yeah, they will. Yeah, they do that.
It's hard.
But I think it's a makeup of a lot of different foods that don't have the vitamins, and we're not eating properly, and our bodies aren't the same as it was back in the day where the change of life baby would come. Now it's like McDonald's and hamburgers and no vegetables, and you know what I mean? And it's like, okay, yeah, this woman here, you need to be in bed. Because the inside of your body is way older than the outside of your body. So I think that's what's going on. I have to say, I don't know. There are some women though that can do it at that age, and they don't even blink an eye.
It helps if you've been doing this. It's the out of the blue that's kind of like a shock. One thing that I do lightly touch on is that in the United States, Black women in particular have this staggering rate of maternal death.
Yeah.
And it's been going on for over 30 years. And this is irrespective of whether you're wealthy or not.
Yeah.
And I'm always shocked that not enough women actually know this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, doesn't the doctor talk to you and sort of tell you, come up with a strategy for how to overcome this? Like, I've known of women in my circle, not even 30. In law school, I lost a classmate. She was I don't even think she was 25.
Yeah. I
And
think education is just not there for a lot of different ethnicities, especially Blacks.
but it's the
To teach
Black women
them.
that have the highest rate. Like
Yeah, especially Blacks that
yeah.
they don't have that knowledge, and the access to the knowledge would really change everyone's lives.
I hope so. I hope so. And I'm hoping that, if as more people read this, maybe they'll, I don't make a big deal of it,
Mhm.
but I mention it,
Right.
and I mention lots of other things in this book in terms of just like a little bit of politics, a little of the feel
Mhm.
of, that era, that 2011 era. I talk about architecture and art, and poetry is very big. She's
Mm.
a teacher of languages,
Mhm.
French and Spanish at a prep school. But before that, she taught at university. And so she did a lot of like comparative literature. And so throughout the novel, I talk about two poets, one from Chile, Pablo Neruda,
Mhm.
and the other one from France. And what's interesting, Paul Eluard, and what's interesting about these two men, they were writing probably just before the Second World War at a time of turmoil. And both of them are known for their political writings, but also their intimate writings.
Mm.
They wrote, especially Pablo Neruda. He's known for his love poetry. And what's wonderful about reading, his poetry in particular, it's not, when they talk about love, it yes, in part it is the eroticism of love, but they also talk about the ordinary little acts of attention that really sort of gels everything together. And these are men talking
Right.
about this, not women.
Yeah.
Men writing about the little intimacies of being together.
Mm.
Um, and that's actually something that the character Aren, despite all of his like gruffness, he understands this instinctively.
Mhm.
And that is part of, the way he's able to draw her out.
That's nice. I like that.
uh,
I
yeah.
like that. I like that a lot. That is just wonderful. You've placed so many, like I said, you're very creative. I said it from the get-go. I knew it. When I saw your name, I was like, okay, this is gonna be in detail. This is it. This is it. This is gonna be a detailed one. And then you said you were a lawyer. Oh, yes. We're going down the book trail. Yeah, it's a whole wall of books. I could see it, and she's going A, B, C, D, E.
Yeah, well, yeah. And so, so I'm at the tail end of just promoting this book, and
Hmm.
I have another one
Oh.
that's I'm just working on the editing part.
Hmm.
And this one is a coming of age story.
Mm.
And again, it's like, okay, I want to, especially it's relevant now. My daughters, they're 17 now. And this begins with a young woman, 17, and she's got some major decisions to make about her life. Do I go to this school? Do I study this? Blah, blah, blah. And once again, this is in Obama's America. So this is Aren and Élise is 2011. This is literally 2009.
Mm.
And so this is a story of a coming of age. It's also class and society. Because the romantic hero, I won't say too much, um, but there's going to be a clash between them. Then this is like the clash of society. Um, yeah, yeah, because her parents are recent immigrants.
Hmm.
He's coming from old family. And it's just like a look at how they navigate in life. And there is a journey. This journey is in Europe, and it's interesting to look at Europe. I'm so glad I wrote it before COVID.
Mm.
So you get a sense of what it was
But
like
like, yeah,
before all this, stuff that we've gone
yeah,
through.
yeah.
And again, I'm hoping, that the audience that reads this, especially the younger one, that they'll embrace like all of these wonderful opportunities ahead of them. And I said she's a student of dance, so I've been spending a lot of time researching Black ballerinas. So she's coming, this story is coming out before Misty Copeland, kind of came to everyone's attention. And I'm learning, oh my goodness, like that struggle for the young Black dancer who really wants to do ballet.
Yeah.
And
it's a struggle.
and it's a struggle. It's a struggle. And so for her, she's going, when she's making her decision, she's thinking about, well, should I go through all this effort? Maybe I should just go become a biology major and, study nutrition. It's like she's, and this is the midst of that economic crisis that devastated the middle class.
Right.
And so, so these are hard decisions that she needs to make. But ultimately, the reason why I wrote the book is if you ever read the Twilight series.
Yes.
I'm crazy. Okay. I love Twilight. Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
I love Twilight. But what fascinated me is like, how does this work? The human girl falls in love with the cute vampire, and she wants to give up her humanity. She wants to give up her humanity, and no one seems to be upset about this. Okay, I'm still kind of upset. Like, wait a minute. She's 17, 18 years old. So then I asked the question, well, okay, society is telling me they're okay with young girl giving up her humanity. And we know we have a society where teenagers, they can drive, they can have their own bank accounts, they work, they have boyfriends and girlfriends and do who knows what. No one has a problem with that. But people have a problem if a young man wants to court her. What's that? What's that? And marriage, no, there's no marriage in that particular book, but courtship is on the table. And I'm amazed at the number of people who raise an objection.
Yeah.
But that is why I wrote the story. I wrote the story because I asked myself, well, how liberal, how far does this go? You give up humanity, go do this, go do that. And that is the other thing she's going to have to figure out for herself. What do I do? Society's telling me, go woohoo. And she's like, well, she's not ready to commit, but the question, but that is the question she must answer. Does she go down that path?
Wow.
So anyway, so I can stop it there, but that is really the question I had then and the question I have now. What are we telling our daughters? Yes, I'm sitting here and I'm saying, be the scientist if that's your dream, be the athlete, be who you want to be. But as my mother used to say, you can be all that you want to be and still be in a committed relationship.
Yes.
So, and that's what I wanted to explore. And like I said, we don't have these conversations with our young women anymore. You go to the doctor's office, and when you reach 18, they'll say, oh, shall I write you a script? I grew up with Cosmo Girl and all that other stuff, and they don't talk about that. They talk about, whatever it is that they talk about. And so I said, okay, well, I want to change the picture. I want to change the conversation a little bit and just ask. And I've been really surprised by how resistant people are. And this is not just women, it's men and women.
Yes, they are.
So.
Wow. Well, I knew you would be detailed.
No, you've been a wonderful, well, thank you for letting me blather on like this. This was
it's fine. I love listening. I'm a listening kind of person.
Yeah, this was great.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. I love your details. I love the way you've incorporated real life into your books and also incorporated the questions of life in your book, which is just something that a lot of people don't do because they keep it fantasy and everything is surreal. But this is really real to life, and I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So where can people find your book, Aren and Élise?
Okay, you can find it on Amazon, and you're going to, let's say, published by Bookside Press. So I just
Okay.
want to like be clear about that. Bookside Press.
Awesome.
And my website is etnigsayam.com, and you can find me on Twitter and all that other good stuff. Ettenig Sayam. I think I'm going to change, follow your lead there, and look into trademarking it.
I would. I would
Okay.
definitely trademark that name. As a matter of fact, as we speak, that name is being trademarked. So you cannot steal that name at this moment in time. It is done. So
That is great. That
yeah,
is great.
yeah.
I've just been, thank you. Thank you for listening, for being my captive audience. Um, you're why I write. You are why I write.
And you're why I read. So don't stop writing and I won't stop reading.
Okay. Right. So that second book should come out, like in 2024,
Okay.
probably in the spring of 2024.
That sounds amazing.
So for now, we have our friend.
That's
And,
right.
and the other thing I'll say too is that if you ever wanted to learn a few words in Spanish, a few words in French, you'll find it in this book.
Nice.
You know?
Nice. Wow. Wow. Well, wow. I want to thank you, Ethnic, for coming on the show and for being here and being so unique. But not only that, for paying attention to detail in your books. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And thank you guys so much for tuning in. We're going to have all of that information where you can find this book. It is Aren and Élise, and that is spelled Aren and the symbol Elise. And you can find that again on Amazon. We're going to put that link in the description box below, so it'll be easy for you to find that. As we go through these life details and these journeys, why don't you begin to write?
Absolutely.
That's a question.
Absolutely.
I think that you could. I think you could. Just like we are just trying to put it on paper, why not you as well? Look into it. And when you finish your book, hit me up. I'd like to have you on the show. And until next time, guys, don't forget to dare to be different. Bye.